What's up, everybody? I'm Joey from Tracer, and today we are talking all things gels. High carb fueling has been a major breakthrough over the past few years in all endurance sports, running, cycling, and others. And gels are really one of the most effective ways that we have to ingest a high amount of carbohydrates so that we can fuel our training and our racing. But the problem is that there are literally hundreds of different gels to choose from, and all of them are different and they have different nuances. So today we're going to be doing a deep dive on all things gels. We're going to be talking about the science of how these carbohydrates are absorbed into your body, and that's going to put you in a position to make an educated decision around which product might work best for you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the science here. What's in the gels and how is it absorbed into our bodies where we can use it? And don't worry, this isn't super complicated. It's actually pretty simple. So what's in all of these gels is a combination of basic carbohydrates, which are glucose and fructose. The reason that they mix two different kinds of carbohydrate in these gels is because when we ingest both, we get some fructose, we get some glucose into our gut. And the fructose is able to exit our gut and go into the bloodstream through specific fructose doorways. So you can see that here's one, it could go out this way. The squares can go out a certain door, and the circles can go out a different set of doors. And it turns out that the fructose cannot go out of a glucose door and vice versa. And so by mixing the right ratio of glucose and fructose into the gut, we take advantage of both of these doorways. That's super important because if you overload on either one, let's say that you had just pure glucose, you would not be taking advantage of the fructose pathway. And the goal here is to ingest this fuel and get all of this energy, all of these carbohydrate molecules into the bloodstream where we can utilize it, where it can be delivered to our muscles and allow us to run faster without fatiguing. Okay, so the next question becomes, how much glucose and how much fructose can you absorb? A good starting point, and it's not for everybody, but a good typical number would be 60 grams of glucose per hour with 30 grams of fructose per hour. So notice that's 2-to-1. That's where this common ratio that you may hear of, 2-to-1 glucose to fructose ratio, a lot of gels, that is how they are mixed. And it's all about taking advantage of how fast and how many doorways can get that glucose and fructose into the bloodstream. Now, a lot of gels are 2-to-1, but some are 1-to-0, where they're actually pure glucose. And if that's the case, they're leaving this entire pathway, this entire fructose pathway, untouched and unutilized. Other gels might be like 1-to-1, where you're doing 1 glucose and 1 fructose. In fact, table sugar, that's what table sugar is. And so if you choose a gel, that will determine what this ratio is, which will drastically affect how your body absorbs it and will dictate how you feel as you ingest that energy. All right, so there's one more thing that we have to talk about around the glucose and fructose, and that is that when you look at the ingredients on most of these gels, you're not going to see glucose usually as an ingredient. What you are going to see is maltodextrin. So what is maltodextrin? It's just a chain of glucose. So when we ingest it, our gut immediately breaks up the chain into individual glucose molecules. So like on this gel right here, it says maltodextrin to fructose ratio is 1-to-0.8. Well, that just means glucose to fructose ratio. It's the same thing. You can look at the maltodextrin as equivalent to glucose when you're analyzing, say, the ingredients of a gel. So now that the science is underneath us here, let's get a little more pragmatic. How do you choose a gel? Well, for most people, you're going to want to start with a 2-to-1 ratio probably. You're going to ballpark anywhere from 60 to 90 grams per hour of the carbohydrate at a 2-to-1 ratio. So a lot of gels, they'll just say, if you go look at the nutrition facts on a gel, you're going to see that the ratio is a 2-to-1. And I would start with that. Now, if you are starting to become a little more experienced and you want to up your carb intake from, say, 60 grams up to 90, I'd say stick with 2-to-1 up to 90 if it's working. When you start to want to go to 100 grams per hour or maybe even more, you're going to probably need to bring up the fructose amount in your body rather than just adding more and more glucose. And that's where some of these new school gels are approaching it, is they're bringing up the fructose levels in the gel. So for example, Morton has a 1-to-1 ratio. The SIS Beta Fuel has a 1-to-0.8 ratio. So if you're pushing your carb intake higher and higher, say you're going beyond 90 grams per hour, you probably want to look at starting to raise the amount of fructose that you're ingesting and training your gut to be able to handle more and more fructose so that your overall number of grams per hour can go up. And you should do that if you're very experienced and you're running long races where you're really pushing the limit on how many grams per carbohydrate you're burning per hour. So let me show you an example here of where choosing a gel can go wrong. I have 2 gels here, both from the same brand. These are SIS Science and Sport gels. This one over here has 60 milliliters. It's in the same shape as this 60 milliliters. So they look almost the same other than the graphic. This one has 21 grams of carbohydrate in it, and it is pure maltodextrin. So there is no fructose in this gel. This one has 41 grams of carbohydrates, and it has a 1-to-0.8 ratio. So this has a high amount of fructose for the number of grams. This has twice the amount of energy as this one. So to the untrained eye, these may just look like, oh, they're SIS gels. What's the difference? There's a huge difference. These are on polar opposites of the spectrum of what you're getting in the gel. It also brings up another point. This one only has 21 grams of carbohydrate. This one has 41 grams. So if you bought these for the same price, you would be getting twice the amount of energy out of this one as this one, which would mean you could consume 2 times less the amount of gels with this one. So you really have to pay attention to the details on what you're ingesting and even the cost. You should be looking at the cost per gram of carbohydrate at the correct ratio. That is what you need to do in order to choose a gel that's going to work and be friendly on your budget. The next thing we need to cover are gels that are more based on real food. So a lot of the popular ingredients that are used are honey, maple syrup, or fruit purees. Some of these gels, for example, let's say this honey stinger, it's based on honey, and honey has a varying glucose to fructose ratio. So it kind of depends on the honey. And so when you look at the ingredients here, it can become a little bit difficult to know how much glucose, how much fructose are you getting. Natural ingredients can be great. Some are made out of maple syrup, but it does kind of obfuscate the numbers. It kind of takes away the mathematical basis around which you can adjust. For example, if I look at this precision gel or this goo, I know that this one has 25 grams of carbs at a 2-to-1 ratio. This one has 30 grams at a 2-to-1 ratio. So it's much easier for me to adjust off of that and choose a different gel or adjust it than if you're going off of natural ingredients where, you know, say the fructose amounts in strawberry puree might be totally unknown to you as you consume it. The last thing that we're going to be talking about today is how you can just make your own gel if you want. This is a bag of maltodextrin. This is a bag of fructose. So I can create any amount of carbs I want, glucose to fructose ratio. If I want to make a 2-to-1 with 100 grams, I could do 66.6 grams of this, 33.3 grams of this, that would give me 100 grams at a 2-to-1 ratio. Mix it in some water, whisk it in, you have yourself a gel. We have an entire other video on this, on how to make your own gels and put them in your own flasks. So check out that other video. We'll link to it from this one. That is a great resource. And one of the reasons I really love it is that these gels are really expensive. And if you don't practice and train with the gels that you want to use in your race, you might be in for a surprise on race day. So by making your own, you keep the cost significantly lower. You're able to train with it a lot, and you know exactly what's going in. So if your ratio feels a little bit off, you could try increasing the fructose. You could back off the fructose. It gives you complete control. And with the information that you've learned in this video, it's really easy to do this. That is a deep dive into gels, energy gels. And it's a critical subject. Your fitness is really only part of the equation of performing on an endurance race. The other part of the equation is how do you take care of yourself? I don't care if you're the fastest car in the world. If you don't put gas, oil, and coolant in that car, it is not going to perform very well. So this is really a critical subject. And if you have any further questions, leave them in the comments of this video. You can email us at info@tracerfitness.com and we'll get back to you with our best answers. We've got access to some of the best nutritionists in the sport. If we don't know the answer, we'll make sure that we find out for you. And of course, check out Tracer for actually learning how to train, how to apply workouts in the right way, when to do your long runs, when to do your high intensity, when to go easy. Tracer has been built. It's an app for bringing the world's best coaches into your life through adaptive training plans. So check it out at tracerfitness.com. Thanks for watching, everybody.